And then what do you call home?
I'm actually, this is kind of interesting. I have property in Florida and in Arizona,
Okay.
but I am a digital nomad.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Eric Gaines, Cullum number 43189. Eric will tell us about his time studying electrical engineering at the Academy and his current devotion to the outdoors, where he lives the van life and spends time with his grandchildren. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants, not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly Van Life United. Eric Gaines, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
I love these podcasts because we did not have a chance to hang out at school. I knew
No,
who you were, I knew of you, but we didn't have a chance to,
right.
so now we have a chance later in life to hang out.
Yes, very cool. And
Although
it's
I did see that
always,
you studied German, at least you were in the German club.
I was.
We might have
Yep.
crossed, who was your German instructor? We might have crossed paths
Oh
there.
God, I'm bad with names. Please
Okay.
forgive me. I don't have any clue.
So
I
there was
remember going down
there was
to,
basically there were two streams there. There was Herr Mayor Nienhagen and then a very nice captain. If you had the captain, you had an
I probably
okay
had the
time, but
captain.
Nienhagen was a whole different thing.
Yeah, I remember going down to New York City, didn't we? With the club.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were
Yeah.
you there?
I was not at that trip. I don't know what
Oh,
I was
okay.
doing. It was yearling years, a whole different
Right.
adventure. So, but you're coming to us today from Phoenix, is that right?
Actually, not. I'm actually in Florida.
You're in
This
Florida.
is right. This is where my daughter lives with five of my grandkids, all five actually,
Okay.
and a sixth one on the way. So pretty
A
exciting.
sixth on the way. Congratulations
Yes.
to you and to
Thank
her.
you, sir.
That's great.
Thank you. Appreciate
We
it.
had a little preparatory time. We had to take all the children's names off the wall and make it look a little more like you're in a
Yeah,
studio. So
exactly.
you're actually
Right.
in a nursery now, which is fantastic. This is my favorite. I love me wall so far as your grandkids' names behind you.
Right. My granddaughter's room. So.
And then what do you call home?
I'm actually, this is kind of interesting. I have property in Florida and in Arizona,
Okay.
but I am a digital nomad,
Really?
essentially. So, yeah, for like 10 years, I watched these videos online on YouTube, and I don't know, it just seems so exciting and fun. Van life, I'm a bit of an outdoorsman. I do backpacking and hiking in the backcountry, and so I loaded up a 1968 Ford F-250 camper on the back, pickup camper,
Really?
and set out from my home in Arizona, which I sold, and went up to Alaska and back this summer, and plan on doing something in a couple months again. A few months.
Fantastic. No kidding.
Yeah,
A true digital nomad.
a true digital nomad. Although I'm right now in my daughter's home, I've been so I'm spending a lot of time with the grandkids,
You know what we could
which
do,
is
Eric, is
great for
we
me.
could get a map of all the 86 households. You can go plug in your generator at every one of the
That'd
households.
be great. Yeah, I need places to stay on occasion, so that'd be awesome.
You would be welcome,
Thank you, sir.
you know.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'd be welcome in everybody's home, I'm
Right?
sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We get you a map. We get back over there and see. Did see on your Facebook, you and Rafi Moranian had a chance to spend some time together.
Yes, and I just saw Chris Borgerding a couple weeks back, and
That's great.
had a good time. And I'm going down Naples, so I might bump into a few more of our classmates who are down there. So
Good for you. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
so
And you
a lot
take
of
the whole
travel.
show on the road with you. You take the 250 with you and everything.
Not exactly. I have another car, so I've been using that as well.
Okay.
Here.
What
So,
inspired you to become a digital nomad?
well, my life has been kind of interesting since graduation. I don't know if you knew, but I lost my wife to cancer in '08
Sorry
after
to
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, never remarried, and then my son had a near death. Well, a lot of our classmates know about this because they'd always come up to me at the Army Navy game or reunions and ask me about my son Daniel, which our
Mhm.
classmates have been fantastic praying for him, and so he's finally out on his own after
Good.
he still has some significant issues, but he's employed now in Indiana.
Oh, good. I know you
So
shared a bit of his journey on Facebook, so I was aware
I
of it.
did, yeah, and I don't really do social media anymore, so I haven't been keeping that up to date at all.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so it's kind of a challenging number of years, just taking care of life. Life happens, and so I just wanted to do something and for myself, I guess,
Hmm.
and something that interests me because I love adventure. I love, nature and all that sort of thing. So once he got off on his own, I started setting my sights on doing this kind of van life thing for a little while at least. Who knows how long it's going to last?
Right, right.
And I love it. I love it. I can't wait to get back out there. So
Now there's the kids version of van life where there's kind of rock and roll and all kinds of crazy stuff. You see the
yeah,
pictures,
hippies.
but what's that courage never quits version of van life? Because we're all fascinated because we're all
Yeah.
getting ready to retire. Maybe there's a lot of vans in our future. What does it look like the day in the life?
Well, I know of some people that do have vans. They don't use them like I do so much full time, but they do have some nice rigs. No, mine is I got the Nespresso machine. I make my cortados. Every morning. That's kind of how I do. I know how to live right
Okay,
on the road.
now
Yeah.
you're
So
talking my language. I think that this is the van life. I'm warming up to it.
yeah, there you go. Hey, I got room for five, and it's just me. So you're more than
Good
welcome.
for you.
So anyone else out there too. So
So we have a property that we rent, my wife and I, and we have a lot of digital nomads, and they'll come for 3 months and they'll stay there,
oh,
and
okay.
they talk about it's really a very systematic way to live, and the way they're organized is really interesting. So you're taking part in that.
So my how should I say it? My plan is when I go out on the road
What's that?
is to have no plan. So I just totally kind of wing it. I have a general plan, like
Right.
Arizona to Alaska, and I'm going to go kind of this way up through the Rockies and past Glacier and hang out there for a while and keep on going through BC, Yukon, and up to Alaska. And but all along the way, I felt like, God kind of put people in my path to say, hey, go here. This is a great site. Check this out. And oh my gosh, it was a trip of a lifetime. I just absolutely loved it.
So how much of Alaska did you get to see?
Well, quite a bit. I went up, met my son actually, picked him up partway through in August at the airport in Anchorage, and went up to Denali. Spent 3 days there. Had a close encounter with a huge grizzly bear as well as a bunch of other animals. And then we went down to Valdez
Okay.
and went on a cruise. Went in and amongst the Columbia Glacier area where there's this, it's basically like an icebreaker. This boat that we went on, and
Uh huh.
just then went to a bunch of other places. Went to the road that is farthest west in the Western Hemisphere. Goes all the way to Homer.
Yeah.
And so we went to Homer as well, or I went to Homer
Uh
without
huh.
him, and spent a little bit more time down there. And then my goal was to follow the changing of the leaves all the way back down to the U.S., which I did. So I started out
Good for you.
early September, first week in September. I've got a couple Instagram videos out there, reels of the beauty, and it's just
Well, your,
breathtaking.
your Facebook, the few photos you do have up are fantastic. It's like a nature magazine.
Yeah, I've been all over the world, and really have enjoyed it, traveling and
And was that a
seeing
late in
more of
life?
the U.S. and Canada.
Was this a late in life impulse, or was this something you've always been interested in terms of getting in the outdoors?
Um, wow. So, obviously a lot happened with my life after the army,
Hmm.
and just, four kids, and just very busy, and then my wife had cancer for 10 years. It's just life happened.
Right.
And so I guess I've always had an interest in it. My parents used to take us camping I grew up not far from West Point in
Sure. Peekskill.
Peekskill,
Yeah.
Cortland Manor, across the river. So we used to go up to the Catskills and the Adirondacks and all over the Northeast,
Okay.
camping as a kid. And then my dad
Right.
used to take us on the Appalachian Trail as young kids as well. And so, yeah, I was always a bit of an adventurer. So I just kind of getting back to my roots.
Oh, good for you.
In
Yeah.
2014, I moved. So my wife passed away in '08. In 14, I went to Phoenix, and I didn't know anyone. I was actually working for a ministry out there. I was kind of giving back in a
Hmm.
sense because I was very grateful for, barring the issues, just all sorts of, pretty good life. And so I joined like 5 or 6 meetups that were all related to canyoneering and
Hmm.
backcountry backpacking and
Sure.
hiking. And so I met a lot of people that way, and that kind of got me back into it. And so, yeah, and been doing it ever since.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you don't have to you didn't wait to retire to get out there and see things. You did it along the way. Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm partially retired now.
Okay.
I do contract work when I feel like it for a company. Dan Schaefer's in it as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I was going to ask you about that. It's the
Revenue.
same
hmm
Dan Schaefer's Revenue International, right?
Revenue International, and
Right.
so that is a great deal. I do work when I want to, and I have fun when I don't want to work. So
Okay.
go out into the country and see the
Which
world.
is very
So
digital nomad of you. You work when you want to, and
yes, I have
you're very
Starlink.
you're very
So
with
I've
the
been in.
times, Eric. You're very with the times. I like that.
Yeah, and Starlink makes it all so easy,
I
and
bet. Yeah.
I've been in places where there's nobody and middle of nowhere and been able to connect no problem.
You're
So
looking at a spreadsheet, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right.
Just
So
work
let's
out
go
of the
back to
camper.
Peekskill, New York, and start
Yes,
tying
sir.
it all together. Obviously, very close to West Point. And what what was it like being a kid that lived in the area that became interested in it? How'd that all kind of come together for you?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I never thought about West Point as a school, as close as it was.
Sure.
I'm about 15, 20 minutes away across the river. We used to go there as a kid for fireworks on the 4th of July and the 1812 Overture and all that stuff. And
Right.
so, occasionally we get over there. And then when I was in high school, I did track and field, indoor track and field,
Mhm.
the field house. And so anyway, didn't think anything of it at
Right.
all the way up until my senior year. So I wasn't trying. I felt like I hadn't started the process or anything like that. So my sister was working at the gas station, and a bunch of guys were up there, Company D3, Class 82, and they told David Wilson, my future brother-in-law, about this girl up there. Anyway, they started dating, fell in love, got married, and that's how I got introduced to more of the inside of West Point. And so I was a patriot. I loved our country, and I wanted to serve and stuff like that. And I was impressed by him, so I started the process on October 17th of my senior
Wow.
year, very late.
Wow.
All the vice presidential, whatever nominations I could get, congressional, were like I couldn't apply to
And
anywhere.
from a competitive area, obviously, because
And yeah, very
right.
competitive, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was pretty wild. But I just kind of left it up to God and said, if you want me there, I guess you'll get me there somehow.
Yeah.
And they had an officer come by and check out the family and stuff through the process, obviously. And he said, if they want you bad enough, they'll get you. So I said, okay, well, I won't worry about the nomination then.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, I got a call. I think it was in the first half to kind of get accepted, and I was ecstatic. So
Now, even with your
excited about
knowledge
here.
of your indirect knowledge through those 82 grads you met, and your sister's at that time, I guess, boyfriend or
Boyfriend, yeah, boyfriend,
slash
girlfriend.
getting. Did our day still kind of come as a shock, or did you have a little bit of inside knowledge?
I didn't. I remember just going to bed shaking, like probably a lot of us. I don't know. Maybe I was the only one, but yeah, just shell shocked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And at high school, you said you ran indoor track at the field house. Were other
Yeah.
sports? Were you an athlete, or were you?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Just about anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Grew up in a great place, where we would basically compete with kids from another neighborhood down the street, and we were always the underdogs. Ours was so small, and they had this huge. Anyway, did everything.
Good.
We even did hockey. There was some fish hatcheries down the street, and about the
No.
size of a ice hockey rink. So we just do that all summer, just shovel the snow off, and do that all winter, and then yeah, and then the summer baseball, football, basketball, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and I played handball at West Point, and
You
a little
did.
bit,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit, and then soccer. I was soccer all through high school. I tried out for the team, didn't make it as a peanut, kind of walk on, but yeah, so always a bit of an athlete at max PT tests, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Not when I first got there. I was 126 pounds when I walked through the
126
door.
pounds soaking wet.
5'11". Yeah, soaking wet. I could barely knock out that 40th push up, but I kind of built up muscle over time as we often do. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating how we all physically develop, because most of us were
Right.
still kind of going through those last phases of putting on I think I weighed 150 when I checked into the academy, So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I was I was 17 when I entered. I had my parents sign me over
oh,
because
really?
I'm one of the younger ones in the class,
Is
not
that
the
right? Okay.
December baby. So
So Beast Barracks, what company were you in? You were in the second regiment as a plebe, but talk a little bit about Beast. What was that like for you?
yeah, well, beast. Yeah, again, it was just kind of initially a shock, like although I had some, I guess,
Yeah,
some
you're sure.
knowledge, a
Sure.
little. It's just not the
Okay.
same. Um, so I was in the zoo, but in beast barracks, yeah, things went okay. But what was kind of a shocker for me, I was the head mail carrier when everyone
This
came back.
podcast features head mail carriers. It is like
Yeah,
everyone who was a head mail carrier talks about it.
it's a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Yeah. So all the upperclassmen come back, and some of them, being on reg and brigade staff, they
Yeah.
didn't get their meal cards that first weekend. So I got in
Yeah.
trouble or didn't get them in time. Anyway, I just remember getting hazed pretty bad that first week back. But I thought I really enjoyed kind of beast barracks. I gained 126. I gained about 7, 8 pounds or something at beast barracks.
Okay. Yeah.
Like where a
Yeah.
lot of guys lose it, right? So not bad.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think I probably ate, just being a kid in high school, you don't eat as well. I ate much more regularly and probably got more nutrition starting as a cadet than I did in high school, just because I was eating whatever I ate.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
was in a family of 6 back home, and I ate slow, so I never got seconds. 'Cause my eldest brother, he was a beast.
family of six. You got
My
to be
parents
fat.
starved me,
Right.
but I could
Right.
run fast,
Right. Right. I
like a
can't run
bitch.
fast. I just can't shovel that chicken down as fast as my older brother.
Oh man,
so,
no, he
so
was unbelievable.
first plebe company was F2. What was that like?
At two zoo. Oh
Yeah.
well, the zoo is always a zoo. It was kind of fun. But we had Cadet Massey, upperclassman. He was a nightmare. He was a big flame.
Every company had
Uh,
one, right?
right? Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed it. Just
Who were some
yeah,
characters in
great
your
guys.
company in F2? Some company mates.
Um, let's see. John Schwartz was he was always a great. We're great friends
Yeah.
now, but I remember how slow he used to talk. We used to, but where was he from? Arkansas or somewhere? I forget. But the mountains. Um, but yeah, there was a few of those guys over there, and had
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
had a good time.
And how was academics coming? First year academics? Were you did you fall right in on it and find it doable, or was it a real shocker?
Well, I had my best semester and my worst semester academically as a beanhead.
Okay.
So you may recall we had 3-man rooms
Yes.
um, as beanheads, and I had a 4-man room.
Oh boy.
So
Yeah.
they had 4 of us in a 3, and
Ooh,
so yeah, that was my worst semester,
that's
and
tight.
that was tight. And so, but it was kind of fun. I had some uh, great classmates there. It
Right.
was it was good fun. Um, and then I had Lee Smith, Dean Rogers, and Lawrence Stubbs as roommates. And then the second semester I had Chuck McLaughlin, who's a star man. That's my best semester academically.
It's amazing, isn't
So
it?
yeah, that was my
Well,
buddy. Yeah, he
I
took care
pride
of me.
myself in having drugged down many a starman in my day.
Oh,
So
that's good.
I was
Yeah.
the one who was the drag. Anyway, Lawrence Tubbs was in my company as an upperclassman. So I know Lawrence, and just had him on. We just recorded it one of these podcasts for the baseball team. So you'll see that soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. He's a great guy. We are
Yeah.
still good friends, and but anyway, I hope I didn't bring Chuck down. He never mentioned it. I think he just brought me up,
My roommates did mention it.
It's like, thanks a lot, Paul. You corrupted us. We had a
You
lot of
know,
fun, but
they said we don't even know what podcasting is, but you have a bright future in it because you don't stop talking. Um,
right. That's
so you
funny.
were a couple things. You had real consistency on a couple of the clubs. What was your strategy there? Because you were I looked at your club participation.
Okay.
Uh, talk about kind of you got involved right out the bat, out of the gate in some clubs, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, so we had to try out for or sing to the choir directors, right? If you're
Yeah,
Catholic,
right,
you went to the Catholic guy. I guess the Protestants went to the Protestant guy.
right.
Um, I think we all did that. Anyway,
We
so
did, yeah.
I did, and I totally bombed. Like, but I always loved singing, and I always used to sing with my brother when we were kids. We'd hold candlesticks as mics, or
Yeah.
performing in front of the family. So I knew I had a decent voice. I just choked that day. I don't know, stage fright. So I just started showing up. So
Really? Good for you.
yeah, I just started showing up, and they're like, "Oh, you kind of does have a voice." So
At the Glee Club or at the Catholic
so it's just the Catholic choir,
Catholic
Catholic folk
choir? Yeah,
group.
'cause that was your. I mean, for 4 years you were a member of that, right?
Right, right. I sang at the graduation mass on Trophy Point and stuff
Good
like
for
that.
you.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I always enjoyed doing
But
that.
did you bomb the Glee Club or the Catholic
I
choir?
never tried out for the Glee Club. I
Okay.
probably would have bombed that too. Who knows? No, they probably wouldn't have wanted me. But yeah, so the Catholic choir was a great opportunity to kind of, get out of West Point on occasion.
Yeah.
I got my first 4 hours on the area because I left my locker open at civilian clothes and my foot locker as a beanhead, and that's how I got my first 4 hours. But
So
on
what
the area.
were you were you on the right side of the law often, and that those 4 hours were an unusual
Yeah,
thing, or did you
yeah.
end up turning a corner um,
No,
into the
no,
dark place?
no, I didn't go to the dark side at all. I was always a goody two shoes as a kid too.
Okay, good. Well,
I wasn't one of the crazy classmates, I suppose that
the Catholic
often got in
choir
trouble.
members from
I
all the
was,
years breathe a sigh of relief that suddenly this tale of your
right.
malfeasance come out. So you were a good Catholic kid, as was I.
Yes.
I wasn't in the Catholic choir, but a good Catholic kid growing up Catholic school and had 4 hours. So we're both on the same side of it.
Yeah. I was a little jealous later on in life, hearing all the stories of
I can't
or
believe the
of
nonsense
all
that
the
went on there.
kids that. Huh?
I can't believe the nonsense that went on there that I didn't take part
Oh
in.
my gosh. Yeah, that's amazing. I missed out. I feel like a little bit.
Apparently, boy,
You know?
I just sat in a room over there. So C3
Exactly.
as a yearling, how was that transition? So you had the zoo, then you moved to C3.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so C3 was good. Never had any issues. I enjoyed being in Third Reg and C3. We had and our sister companies, a lot of great people,
Yeah,
and enjoyed it. Seemed to get along with everybody. I really didn't have any issues per se. Um, yeah,
yeah,
no
yeah.
problem. And again, I wasn't getting in trouble. I think I had 8 hours total over the 3 years. So
Good
yeah,
for you. Yeah.
little things.
See. So the kids at home that are watching this and watching these tales of people getting hundreds of hours and
Century,
all that, there were a lot
yeah.
of us who really minded the store, right?
Probably most of us. We're the silent majority,
That's who really valued our time enough to
Right.
not play with it.
Well, when I was a first year, I was out of the company the whole year. I don't know. Maybe they didn't like me up there. I don't know. I was in battalion and regimental staff, so I really didn't really know too many
Yeah.
yearlings, I
So
guess, a
let's
year.
talk about that. So you battalion regimental staff is a level of achievement. So that your grades had to be good. What was your course of study that allowed you to excel that way?
So a double E. I think my average is probably in the 60s, but
Yeah.
double E as a double E major, that's probably an A minus, something like that.
You were an electrical
So
engineering major and you were
yeah,
in battalion and regimental staff.
yeah, Computer engineering
Computer
as a
engineering
kind of
is
a
on your
concentration.
howitzer. That's right. All right.
Hmm.
Well, hold on a second. So you that's a big deal. That's a really well done. What was your roles in battalion and regimental staff? Just so we get that. Were they
Yeah,
the
well, I was
adjutant?
command sergeant major of the regiment and battalion XL.
That's kind of a big
First
deal.
battalion.
And you're as an electrical engineering major. So well done. Well
Yeah,
done.
well, thanks,
Yeah.
thanks. Like I said, you just the big thing with double E is you just stay ahead of the curve, right? Ride the
Right.
wave. It's just
Well,
as long as I stay
there was a
ahead of
lot of us
everybody
that were
else,
down underneath the
you're
curve pushing it up just to help you out. So
right. Thanks. I mean, I need you guys.
just,
Appreciate that.
to this day, if I see an electrical circuit, I freak out. I can't even change a light bulb these days. It's
Yeah, well,
crazy.
I remember one time I took down Mahan Hall. I had this little
Yeah.
circuit board that I put together, and it blew up, and all the lights went out. It was Yeah,
Yeah.
never destined to do it full time, I
Right,
guess.
right. You certainly could memorize the different equations.
Right,
For you.
right.
And German club 1 year, you were the Catholic chapel choir for all four. What else kept you
Hmm.
busy as an upperclassman?
I did the mountaineering club too.
The mountaineering club.
I forget how long I did that for. I
Okay.
had to look at my howitzer, but
Yeah, sure.
I enjoyed that. So you may recall Miller time back in Beast Barracks. We had to rappel off the side of that cliff,
Yes, I
and
do.
so at the end of the day, they took all the people that were, I guess, craziest and sent them over the side for Miller time. And so I was one of those and flew. I just remember I was over a reverse, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I lined up, I sprung off away from the cliff. And I just remember coming down, smacking against the wall. My feet hit, then my butt hit. I'm looking straight at this guy. That was my Miller time. But it was fun.
I
I
remember
love
that
that
cliff
kind of
very,
stuff.
very distinctly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good for you.
I
And so
think
you
we all do.
decided to do it for fun. Right.
I wanted to do it, yeah. I just wanted to do it for fun, and really enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind getting back into it. It's been a while, so.
Yeah. Well, with your outdoor, your penchant for the outdoor, who knows?
Penchant.
Outdoors. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so now we're going to add another level because electrical engineer made it on regimental staff, and you made it into aviation. Just right?
Right.
That's a
Yes.
big deal
Yeah.
too because you had to have high grades for that.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I
You kind of
was
did, right?
near the top quarter of the
Yeah.
class, so
Well, that's
it's
those
all
of us
right.
in the bottom quarter. Thank you. Um, what? Why aviation? What was it that caught your attention there, your imagination there?
Well, I had infantry as my second, but
Sure.
aviation just because I love flying and always had and was really excited about having that opportunity. So it wasn't a hard decision to put that at the top, but infantry was second because it's very I don't know, exciting, and it requires high levels of leadership, etc.
Right.
And yeah, so I really enjoyed aviation for Blackhawks ultimately. Um,
You ended up with Blackhawks. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
and yeah, I got stationed ultimately at Fort Hood and pretty much spent the rest of my Army days there,
So
active
8 years in
duties.
the Army. Is that right?
Eight and a half years, but five and a half were regular, and then 3 years in the Guard
3 years in the Guard. Okay. And
after
Fort
that.
Hood was your first assignment, and Blackhawks.
Fort Hood, yep. And I went back to the advanced course, but that was when the RIF was occurring, so
Right.
I just got out a year early because it was 5 years after flight school, right? So
But
I
you
got
did
out about a
head
year.
over to the desert.
No, I did not actually.
Okay, you
I actually
didn't.
got alerted. I got alerted 3 times to go. We were the Sixth Cavalry Brigade. We
Okay.
used to call it the Sixth Imperial Cavalry Brigade. It was an Apache brigade out of Fort Hood, and had a few Chinooks. It was corps level asset, third corps, and we just never got deployed. We were
Never
alerted
got
three
deployed.
times to go. We were the only Apache units left in the United States. And of course, every Apache unit, every squadron, the cavalry. So every squadron has three Blackhawks. So I was
Right.
on the
Right.
Blackhawk class.
And so
Yeah, but that was
what
always
kind of roles
secondary.
did you have there? Platoon leader, I imagine, and what kind of roles
Right.
did you have in those units?
Well, I was the motor officer 3-5 platoon leader when
Okay.
I got there of the first activating Apache unit. So basically, what that meant is we got people from all over the military. A lot of them not in the enlist guys, no aviation experience. Brought them together, got outfitted with new Apaches, new Blackhawks, and new OH-58s, and then all the ground equipment as well.
Uh huh.
And we were the first one activating this way. And in 3 months, we went through a rigorous training kind of cycle, and we were, officially ready for combat supposedly. So
Okay.
I was the motor officer and the 3-5 platoon leader. Again, a lot of these guys never saw an aircraft before, and as a 3-5, fuel and rearming. So
Sure.
that it was quite an ordeal to get that up and going in 3 months, but somehow we survived that. And then I was things were kind of cranking up in the desert, I suppose. I was also assigned as the S4 officer as a first lieutenant.
Okay.
and property book officer. So during that time, we got alerted 3 times, but because we didn't go, everybody pilfered off us. So a lot of the Apache units that were going overseas, I think I transferred over $460 million worth of equipment to other units back and forth,
Yeah,
and
right.
giving them all our nice stuff and getting all their junk. So
We know you triggered a memory. That was a time when the Apache was coming, the M1A2 was coming, and then the 113s were being phased out for Bradleys. And so a lot of our classmates were doing a lot of transition work to learn these new systems
right,
like yourself, right?
right, exactly, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So that was a fun time, I guess. It was crazy, and yeah, and then I went to the advanced course, and
And then did you meet your wife during that period, or was that a little bit later?
yeah, I met her at Fort Hood
At Fort
through
Hood.
mutual friends. Yep. She went to the church. I always saw her from afar. I said, "Oh, she's pretty," but
Yeah, there
never
you
did
go.
anything. But then, yeah. Long story short, I got invited to the officers club by this veteran who was my real estate agent, and his wife was the principal at Laura's school. So
Okay.
uh, they individually asked us out to the Oak Club. I just remember getting into the back seat of the car, and Laura's just like, because I didn't know she was invited. She didn't know I was invited, but she quickly caught on, knew what they were doing. I was
Right.
clueless,
She-
So,
it's always nice when you can create that response in anyone, let alone a nice young
hey,
lady. That
I'll take it.
the horrified look.
I'll take it. It's all good.
Good for you.
We got engaged in 2.5 months, which is crazy, and then eight
Okay.
months, 8 months we were married. So,
And so, what year you got married? At what year in your 8.5 years in the army? So 3 years in.
oh, that's a good question. It would have been about 3 years,
She
yeah,
saw.
three and a half
Now, was she
years.
familiar with the military, or was it just a whole new thing?
Well,
Even though Fort Hood was there.
yeah, I don't think she was very familiar with the military, to be honest, at all. I mean, even though Fort Hood was right there, you're right. So she would see obviously a lot of people coming and going,
Yeah. Right.
getting deployed or not, and that sort of thing. And
But the dynamics of being a spouse of someone in the military is a whole new set of
oh
muscles
yeah,
you have to learn, right? Yeah.
right, right. Her mom lived there, and her stepdad. She was a music teacher in Cullum, and that's she had her friends at Ellison High School.
Hmm.
One of them married another classmate of mine, of ours, Rock Marcone, his wife, and
Yeah.
my wife went to school same year.
There you go.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. So, well, the good news is you didn't have to change churches. Look at that.
yeah, exactly. I didn't have to
What?
change. Right.
Um, 8.5 years in, I think we all experienced in various ways that period in '91 where it's the end of history, it's the end of all warfare. We're just all going to invent the internet and hang around and send Instagram photos to each other. How did it take place? We decided to get out in that period.
I just, I don't know. I always told my wife if I get cold feet about getting out, just remind me of how difficult or how challenging, whatever. I just wanted to get out for a long time. In
Sure.
hindsight, I probably wish I had someone to mentor me a little bit more, and I really didn't have that. Like someone who'd been the career officer, let's say,
Right.
because I might have thought twice about it. But everything happens for a reason, and the Gulf War presented an opportunity. They were going to ship me off to Korea without my wife, and I had my second child on the way, so I was
Right.
unaccompanied. I said I'll go to Germany, but by the time they gave me Germany, I was already in the midst of the paperwork, and they accepted my resignation, I
And
guess.
off you went. Sure.
Hmm.
It was a
Yeah.
turbulent time, so it makes sense. What was your
Yeah.
first gig coming out? What was your first move coming out of the army?
Yeah. So I just had Lucas and Associates, like probably a lot of us, put
Mm.
me through the ringer with these different companies. I got signed on as an engineer actually at Quaker Oats.
Really?
People are
Okay.
like, did you engineer oats? I'm like, no, I just. But yeah, it was a
That's a good
engineering
start.
job. It was a little bit different, right, from a
Yeah,
lot of our
right. That's you
classmates.
don't
I
hear
mean, I
that a
can't
lot. That's
imagine.
great.
Yeah, you hear sales and operations kind of stuff, but yeah, I got an engineering position in Danville, Illinois, at one of their plants,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
Didn't know anything about that area, but moved there, and it was a good place to raise kids. You could watch the corn and soybeans grow, and
Sure.
you know,
Hey,
it was a fun job. It was a fun job.
raising
Got
kids
to
where
build
it's
things,
quiet is much easier than raising kids where it's chaotic. So that's
right?
makes
Yeah,
total sense.
exactly.
I think you triggered a thought that it'd be interesting to do a survey of our classmates who all got out in '91 and went to these different job fairs, kind of just
Hmm.
statistics of where everyone ended up. Because I would say that being an engineer for Quaker Oats is an unusual and um, differentiated role. I know John Strickler
Yeah.
ended up becoming a programmer for Anderson or Accenture, so that's another
Oh,
unusual
interesting.
one. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so but anyway, good on you. You got a good role there. And how
yeah,
long
I
did you do
enjoyed
that?
it. About 5 years.
Okay.
I enjoyed that, and I was looking for other positions for advancement. And Quaker seemed to be once an engineer, always an engineer. You had to go that track, and I had
Hey,
bigger aspirations than that. So I went back to Lucas and got a job with General Electric,
I saw that.
actually.
You had quite a run at GE.
Yeah, 17 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You became a
Hmm.
black belt. Chris Erbauer is also a black belt. You also have like a black belt
Yes. Yes.
reunion, and
Yeah.
you could do katas and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what
That'd
a
be
black
great.
belt does, but good for
Yeah.
you. So you went through their whole program.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't a master black belt, but yeah, black belt full time
Sure.
for probably 18 months or
And then
something like
where was
that.
that located?
So we were up in Schenectady, New York.
Okay.
That's where G is, and we live not far from there in Niskayuna. Again, a great place to raise kids, and I loved it. Kind of was more back towards where I grew up, so
Yeah.
oftentimes we'd
Right.
go down to see mom and dad, and my the '82 grad was stationed down there as a German professor multiple times,
Okay.
and so he and my sister had 13 kids. so so
What?
my kids, yeah, my kids would go down there and just have a blast, and we always had a
13
good time.
children.
Yeah, she's the outlier. All of us other ones we had four each.
That deserves a trophy of some sort. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. 13
one
children.
at a time. Yeah, one at
That
a
is
time.
great. And then so let's talk about the kids because I say on every single podcast, the one thing we always make sure we do is talk about the kids. So four, you said.
Yeah, four kids. Yeah, two boys, two girls. Boy, girl, boy, girl. They're now what 34, 33, 32, and almost 30. So
Okay,
stair steps.
that's
Hmm.
a very that's a good spread for our generation's children. Yeah,
Right,
you get a lot
right.
of that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, and then just run me through. We talked about you're sitting in your daughter's home with her
Right.
sixth on the way, which is good for you. And we
Yeah.
talked a little about your son. What about the other two?
The one's in Utah.
Okay.
He's my eldest son,
Okay.
and so he's up there making it happen. And then my daughter is dating a guy now. I hope it works out because I need more grandkids. So
You got
the 20
needs. I mean,
the 29-year-old, yeah. So, but he seems like a good guy.
okay.
So anyway, and then yeah, the two in the middle are the one with all the grandkids, and then my other son who's on his own doing absolutely great. I know a lot of our classmates would be interested in hearing about him. Um,
Yeah.
but he's a real inspiration.
What's
So
can you give us just a quick update as of 2025? How it's going with him?
yeah, so a lot of people know about his traumatic brain injury and spinal cord injury due to work. I was probably from 2016 to 2023
Hmm.
with him through rehab hospitals, what have you. Still has significant disabilities, always in pain, but he's just grateful to be alive. He went back to school. So he went off on his own for a little while, did a couple of years in school, and then kind of went with his eldest brother working, doing tree work. And that's how he got injured. A huge tree branch fell about 40 feet onto his head.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, so he actually died. Someone gave him CPR. He started breathing when the paramedics arrived. So quite a long road to recovery. So did a couple of years of school before that, and then went back to school when we moved to Phoenix. And he was going through a special program at the hospital there, giving him compensations to overcome the disabilities that he has in order to either go to school and or do a job. So he went back for rec therapy, something he always wanted to do with what is it, kind of a concentration in kinesiology or something like that. So, so he finished in fall of 2023.
Okay.
And in December, he found a job, moved to Indiana, and is now working full time, working with people with both physical and cognitive disabilities, using rec therapy to help improve their situation. So
we're in Indiana. My son lives in Bloomington.
Oh yeah, so Columbus.
Yeah. Okay, just over there, just a bit east of there.
Stone's Throw. Yeah, great little town out there.
Columbus is like a very artistic town. It's got this amazing amount of architectural.
Amazing. Yeah, exactly right. It's at one time top 5 or 6 cities in the world for modern architecture, and just some of the greatest.
Cummins engine is there, and so there's money there,
yes.
et cetera. And then they decided that they were just going to create an architectural hub, and there's just shockingly beautiful buildings there. So good for him. Yeah,
right. All integrated with each other.
Yeah, and it's a neat little,
it's quite impressive
town. And then Bloomington, where my son lives, where there's a university there. So little gems in the Indiana countryside.
I've been there, passed through there when we lived out. We actually lived in Indiana when I was working for Quaker in Danville.
Okay,
and so, so we would visit. I was big into Lincoln, still am, but visited all his sites, childhood sites and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty close to Bloomington down there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. So that's the rundown on the kids. And so are they part of the Digital Nomad program? Obviously, you're there with your daughter now. I imagine you find as a digital nomad, you see them more or about the same as you would?
More. This little stint right here has been like over a month now.
Okay.
I took a week and went somewhere for a little while, but yeah, so this is the longest stint. Every quarter I would try to get back from Phoenix or wherever I was living back to see the grandkids. But now, there's going to be a lot more time spent in Florida with them. So
yeah, for sure. For sure. With 6 there, right? Except for that family moment where your children have to say to the grandkids, "Granddad's a digital nomad, you know."
I'm proud of
just to explain the whole rig out in front of the house.
Right, exactly. I actually have a convertible that I use for being down here, and so that's nice.
Yeah.
Actually, my truck's up in where my son is,
in
Indiana. And I'll get married up with that in March, do a couple things to fix it up, and then
off you go again. Where's your next adventure? What's your next
exactly. Adventure? So it's kind of like the East Coast. I want to go to Maine, the national park there, and then head up to through the Maritimes as far north as Newfoundland. It's my goal. So
wow!
And then try to hit the changing of the leaves maybe next fall, or this fall. So we'll probably do that. I might go to Europe. I don't know. My plan is not to have too much of a plan, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who is a big boater, and so he did this.
Oh, okay.
He did the Around the Horn, and he does it solo.
Oh, okay.
And there's a whole program around satellites, and he blogs, and we all were kind of rooting for him as he went around on his adventure. So we could set you up the same way, where you have like a little GoPro. And like the class of '86, the Courage Never Quits mobile, it'd be great. I mean, you could become our.
Let's do it. I'm up for that. Although I'm one of these guys who just enjoys like the moment, so I'm not doing a lot of videos.
Well, we can live vicariously, Eric. I mean, we can live vicariously, through you. Say, hey, I'm digital nomad adjacent. I got a guy.
Right, exactly. This is my guy. I go with him everywhere. Yeah. No, I really enjoy it. And a lot of people have said that very thing. They want to live vicariously through me because for whatever reason they want to but can't, or whatever. I say just go for it. Like I just went for it.
Good for you. So if we take 2 themes that come together, one being this idea of seizing the moment as a digital nomad, and then still working a bit. How do you think when you stop working completely, what does life look like for you, or does it look like an extension of what you're doing now?
I hope it's an extension. I mean, I absolutely love adventure and doing things. I'm still super healthy. So like this past trip to Alaska, I could send you a link to a video. But it was going over glaciers and climbing up over mountain ranges and stuff like that. And knock on wood, as long as I'm healthy, I want to continue to do that as long as possible. I think it helps keep you young. But yeah, and then spending a lot of time with the grandkids,
Yeah,
because they absolutely love, I love being with them. They love me, and uh, again, I think it helps to keep you young.
for sure.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of like, grandkids are the best thing ever, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hmm
Good for you. So if you
yeah.
were to go back into your life at any moment and give yourself advice of any type,
Ooh.
or assuming that you would take your own advice, where would you go
Yeah.
back? And at what point in your life would you go back and just whisper in your ear and say, think of this, right? Would you give yourself a little advice? What would you say?
Um, I don't know, that's a good question. I would probably, just don't give up. Like there's times when that life happens, and we're never promised, a rose garden. Life is difficult, and just hang in there. And I say, you know, as far as just trust God. Like if there's ever an issue that arises, don't give up. Hope. Continue to have faith. And yeah, I think that's the advice. Would I do anything differently than what I did? I'd probably try to just love more, and just be, like I said, even more present than I already was. But I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah.
what comes to mind.
And what would the young you have said to that advice? Shut up, old man. I don't have time for this.
Right, right.
Those are wise words.
No,
I asked that because
I
it's like the wisdom of the class, and we we,
yeah,
we grew up in a very intense environment when we were young, and it's great to hear kind of how it all looks to us at age 59, 60 on up.
yeah, and
And
keep it all in perspective,
yeah,
and
yeah,
because most things that we get maybe uptight about are not that important. I think the army helps with that too, right? Bullets aren't flying, nobody's getting killed, and yeah, it's not that bad. You'll get through it, and everything will be fine. Life's too short,
yeah.
So love as much as you can when you can. I lost my wife to cancer in '08, um, and almost lost my son, and so that gives you perspective,
Hmm.
you know, in a way that just maybe you don't get otherwise. So.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure, for sure. Are there what stories have we not told, or what? Now, the primary audience for this podcast is the kids, because we all love connecting up with each other and seeing each other and talking. But really, the kids get to hear stories they haven't heard. What story have we not talked about that your kids and grandkids would love to hear?
Oh gosh, another great question. I don't know. Probably need to think about that one a little bit more, but
Yeah.
um, let me think.
Sometimes when we
Let me-
hang up, I get a text afterwards, and I didn't tell the
Dang, I
story about
wish
the
I'd thought
time
of
I,
that.
took a bike and was doing donuts on the plane or whatever. So
All right, right. No, I mean I've done some crazy stuff in my life, and
sure.
I paid the price for it with injuries over the years, but somehow I was able to keep it all together. Yeah, I mean, I think this trip in Alaska, you're never too old to try something new, hopefully, and so take advantage of the opportunities you have when you have them. So, like this adventure I did solo, this hike in Alaska in the backcountry was amazing, and
So how
really
long you
enjoyed
did
it.
a solo hike in the backcountry of Alaska? How long did you go, or what was the distance?
So it was only 3 days, 2 nights.
Okay.
But again, I had a helicopter come down, police helicopter talking to me, and I was like, "What?" So he landed where I was going up to a glacier to climb over, mountain ridge,
Right.
and he gets down, shuts off the engine, and comes walking over to me. He says, "Is your name Roberto?" I'm like, "No." Apparently, a guy 60 years old. I was 50, 9 barely. And yeah, he got lost and he hadn't returned home or communicated with anybody, so he was lost up there. They
Really?
found him a couple days later, but yeah, and so it was
So the
kind of
point is,
exciting.
it's serious
It's
business.
not neat.
Yeah.
It's serious
If
business.
you get lost out there,
Yeah,
it's serious business. Yeah, right.
yeah.
That's the
Especially solo. So
right.
it's a little bit more
And
of a
did you say
challenge.
to
If you
that
have,
policeman, "Hey, you landed that a little rough. Let me show you how to do it"?
yeah, right. Let me take your.
I still
Yeah,
got
exactly.
skills, you know.
I still got skills. Yeah, but again, I've lived a great life. I'm quite happy with how things have turned out. It gets a little lonely being single as long as I have,
Sure.
but overall life is good. I'm thankful for everything I have. So,
Yeah. Eric Gaines, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It was a real pleasure to reconnect.
my pleasure. It's so good to see you, and I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.